guys? I am Ash, and he is Saf, and we're coming at you today in Dragonheir Silent Gods. Thank you, Dragonheir, for sponsoring this channel and making this possible. Saf, last time we did healers, top 5 healers inside the game for Season 1. I really enjoyed that list, primarily because, a little spoiler in case you haven't watched it, check it out first of all, but only 2 legendaries on that list. There was a wide variety. Even a common was on that list, which is really cool.
Yeah.
I don't know what we're in store for today, but my hunch is that maybe we'll talk about another hero that was on that list as well on this list, but that remains to be seen, man. We're talking about tanks, we're talking about defenders. Who is number 5, or is there anything you want to mention about the role of a tank in Dragonheir out the gate here?
Yeah, so tanks generally are going to sit on the front line, so they need to survive. Normally, and it's not universal, but normally when I want a tank, I look for tanks with attack penalty, because it just makes sense that the tank will have attack penalty. You don't have to, but it's always nice that you don't have to find that somewhere else in your team. And any form of like self-survival is always quite nice, because sometimes you can get away with a less powerful healer if the tank itself has some sort of self-sustain or a shield, or, you know, some sort of self-heal or something of that nature. So there's lots of variations in Dragonheir in terms of, do I take a more, you know, debuff tank, a more self-oriented tank? There's a couple of shield-based tanks. There's crowd control tanks. There's so many different versions. What we've kind of looked at here in this list is a good universal. They sit in the team and they do their role of protecting your team. That's kind of like what we're going for here.
Okay, the traditional, what you think of when we think of a tank. Okay, so with that said, who is going to kick things off at number 5 on our list? We're going to be ranking from 5 to 1 here.
So we're going to be talking first about Urian. He's a legendary. Unfortunately, we're going to go gold to begin with.
Okay, all right.
There is non-golds in this list.
I like this
guy.
What
I really liked about Urian is he is your ultimate quintessential tank. He has everything that you would expect a tank to have. He's got an attack penalty on a battle ability, which is nice. It's like a nearly 95% chance. Well, actually, no, it is a 100% chance. I can't do math today. So, you know, you get a 100% chance, and also you get to dispel the target's shield, which often is quite useful in places where there is things like Grave of Curse dungeon where there's a shield. But then he gives this really insanely powerful, all map wide, ally protection, and a self shield, and damage reduction.
Wow. Okay.
It's
the
really
ultimate
good.
tank. Okay.
He is your when you play Raid Shadow Legends and you bring that like clan boss tank. He is the ally protector in clan boss. That is what I like about Urian.
All right.
He's just solid tank.
That's great. How much should we, for tanks, how much should we be factoring in and reading into their base HP and defense? Like, is that going to be a big indicator on how good they're going to be, just generally speaking?
They are important to take note. And we can kind of check throughout the video here as well. Like, he's got 40,000 and 1,300. Like, you don't really want to have a tank that's like super low, and you will find that this list leans more towards higher rarities, because the higher rarities have better stats. So it's more survival, where when you have a healer, for example,
you can get that anywhere.
Them. They're not so important.
So that means I would assume that means for lesser rarity defenders, tanks in this game, we're looking for some other sort of damage mitigation in their kit as well, because they're not going to have those base stats as high as legendaries. Yeah,
and you're more reliant on artifact and gears, right? You're more reliant on the stats that you can apply to them rather than just like their raw ability. So you will probably need to make sure they're definitely level 100, that you are using fully maxed out gear on them to keep them alive better. Not necessarily in the early to mid game, but certainly as you start getting in towards the sort of month 2 and month 3 content.
All right, who's number 4 on the list?
So I put this on our list because we've been looking and experimenting with him. Krisos.
A lot. I know this guy.
Yeah, he looks amazing.
I was gonna say,
insane.
What a visual on this dude, man. Absolutely. So, and he has his defense is a little bit lower, and his HP is a little bit higher than Urian. Urian, is that how he says that?
Urian, yeah.
Urian.
We always,
Yes. All right, so this dude is a boss. You were actually mentioning that you were talking to, I think, Neva outside about him, and he was like, yes, he's a beast. So
yeah, exactly. I don't have much experience with him. So I was like, I don't know. What's really
good about
himself,
him
is he self-sustains. It's really nice to see it. And again, look, we've got that attack penalty that we really want. We also have an AoE ally shield. And I believe he can shield as good as the best shielders in the game. So he's providing effective HP for your team, not necessarily in the ally protection form, but in the shielding, which is often very important. And then we get this like dispelling buffs from targets. So it's a little bit like I want to make sure that my enemies can't buff themselves and they're going to have attack penalty.
That's
but
good.
then he also heals himself, which is really good. So like whenever his heal depletes, he's got that passive heal, which means he's going to keep himself alive, which again, that's a very important factor. You don't necessarily want to have to be burdened by keeping your tank alive as much as you can.
And I like that. He has his own shield, which is great. And then he has the healing, as you mentioned. And then he's providing a shield also on the ally with lowest HP on his battle skill. And then a shield to everybody on his ultimate. So there's just shields all over the place.
Big shield. Look at 25% shield. That's a big shield, you know? It's powerful.
All right, cool. Who's a number 3?
Number 3 is an epic. We are leaving the gold territory, and we're going to be talking about Furbath. There he is.
All right, so a poison tank.
Yeah, so he's much more of a poison healer more than anything else. But again, we've got the same archetypes. We've got an attack penalty here. He's got this really cool passive as well. It's a bit of an essay, but essentially what it means is I don't die.
I'm immortal!
What is pretty good for, you know?
The Torment of the Delight. When dealing damage to enemies under debuffs, has a 30% chance of healing an ally with lowest current HP, dispelling a debuff from them, and the more debuffs on the target, the higher the healing the amount. It can be triggered once every second.
So he's like, every time he's attacking, and 9 times out of 10, you put a debuff on the enemy, right? Someone in the team has put in a debuff. Every attack, every 1 second, he's just pumping a bit of healing on someone who's lost a bit of health. It's really nice.
Yeah.
This is what his signature ability is.
I was going to say, this is insane, this battle skill. Yeah.
Everyone around him gets a heal. So you can put him in like the Vortex boss, and he can pretty much solo heal your Vortex boss, certainly in the early to mid game. Certainly.
Okay. All right. And then he has that poison damage with the attack penalty on the ultimate. All right, cool. That's a really, that's a great one. We're at number 2 already. Wow.
Number 2, we're going to be talking about Horoes, who is a free epic. We're still in the epic tier.
Horoes, yeah, our first little guy. I showed him at the top of the video too. All right, Horoes, I'm surprised that he's number 2, man. All right.
Well, I'm surprised he's not flying, because dwarves fly in this game.
I know, right? Where's the rocket pack, man? Come on.
I know, yeah. He is sturdy. This is the best way to describe Horoes. He is sturdy. He's very difficult to kill.
Okay.
He's got the ability to self-shield. Always really nice to have. Attack penalty on a battle skill. Again, 10-second cooldown. Really cool. He's got this really strong ultimate where he will taunt everyone in front of him, and then he gets the damage reduction as well as some hit recovery. So he essentially taunts the enemies. They hit him. Every time they hit him, he heals, but he's also got damage reduction on there of 30%. Very difficult to get through, and often is a great put him at the start because he's fire. It works nicely with poisons, so you can get like your Sigrid. Really good setup. Really strong, solid tank.
Throw him in there, and again, you're seeing his base stats too. I mean, they're obviously lower than the legendaries, but not a ton. His defense is actually pretty decent, you know. So
exactly, yeah. A little bit less HP, isn't it? I don't think we. What was Furbath's one? I don't think we clocked what he had.
Oh yeah, what was Furbath? 38 and 13. Yeah, so about the same.
He's a bit lower on both.
Yeah. Well, that only leaves one position left, Saf. Number 1, the number 1 tank in the game is
Urian.
Oh,
I'm gonna go with
Urian. Not our guy. Garius, he can't make every list.
Not our guy. I mean, some would argue he is very good as a tank, and I can see easily he could have made this list. But the main issue
he's a beast healer too.
He's a very strong healer. He doesn't really have attack penalty, but he could easily make this list. He was going to be in my honorable mentions. But the reason why I've gone for Urian is his passive is godly when you're fighting a lot of content. So good. When
taking damage, he's inflicting the 50% attack penalty on the damage dealer for 5 seconds. So basically, it's an auto attack penalty on whoever he's tanking.
It's so good in arena. It's so good against bosses. Whenever he takes damage, he puts attack penalty 50% of the time.
That's awesome.
Incredible.
And I guess I said whoever he's tanking, but I guess it applies to everybody, not just who he's tanking, right? Like, obviously.
Yeah, because it's all of the way the challenging works is the closest enemy, he becomes the closest enemy, and he just sits there and he just constantly pumps out attack penalty. It's really, really hard.
So like, even if there's an AoE damage dealer in the back, he's neutralizing them as well. He's like, awesome. That's
everyone.
Awesome. Okay.
Awesome, yeah.
All right. And then it looks like he deals some damage too, because he has like really high attack compared to everybody else we've talked about, and he looks to have
a lot lower defense because he scales more on attack. It's like an attack skill and not a defense skill.
Taunting as well.
But his A2 is actually really strong because of the ability for him to drop ultimate energy on the enemies, and he heals himself. So again, we've got this big damage. We've got the ability to drop ultimate energy, which is going to slow down our foes from attacking us. And then we have a nice bit of self-healing. That's on a 10 seconds, so there's a lot of ultimate energy dropping. It's basically a quarter of their turn meter, effectively, every 10 seconds. And then we have a 100% chance of taunting. and he's immortal. He cannot die.
Which is awesome. It does mitigate quite a bit the lower defense, right? In his
Exactly.
in his stats.
And he's getting a higher rating for me, specifically for season 1, because he is poison. And we're already seeing, like, you know, you got people like Furbath. It pairs well with Wild, Tanalnan. So you end up finding that he's the tank you always go towards because he kind of fits the elemental pairing for this season. He loses probably a bit of value when poison moves off to maybe a weaker elemental matchup, right? When in season 2, I think Radiant goes to Ice, and then you get like the really strong pairings with Garius and some of the Frost champions. So it changes the picture again, you know.
Okay. Any final honorables before, or shout outs who almost made the list before we go? Or
yeah, so Dueling is an epic. He's kind of like budget Urian. Dueling, I like to call him as budget Urian. Okay. Very similar. He's got an attack penalty. He's got a little bit of a taunt, but he's got an ally protect on his ultimate. Pretty solid. I've used him from time to time. He can kind of get himself killed, which is the main problem because his base stats are quite a bit lower.
Yeah, 34k comparatively.
Starting to see that hit come in there.
Yeah.
We have a few other pretty good honorable shout outs here, like Isolde, very good shield tank as an epic as well. You'll find that you will use epic tanks quite a lot. Clovis is also very good. So Isolde here is very good because ultimate shield, which is quite nice. Clovis great for, like, he's on a pony.
Yeah, come on.
he's kind of got like Uganda's battle skill with an attack penalty on his ultimate, which is kind of nice. Like, he runs towards someone, drops their ultimate energy, but he's just a bit limited in terms of that. So plenty of options. Again, you're going to be choosing your tanks based on what class you're picking. So sometimes it's like, well, Uganda might be the best tank, but if you've gone lightning, he's not going to go into your lightning team. You're going to have to find someone that pairs well with lightning, which means you might need to go to someone like a Grishna. He might not necessarily be the best, but for what you need, he becomes the best. And that's what's the real fun part about Dragonheir. It's not just like what 5-star champion you're going to pick. It's what's the best champion for the class and the affinity and the element that I want. Yeah, no, I absolutely love that. And that's a good call out to the video that recorded a few days ago about basically how to, when we talk about types and classes, so to speak, and roles, I guess, in this game, but then a lot of tie-ins and recommendations on how to build your team around like those elemental pairings and whatnot. So Seth, any final thoughts on your end before we end this one? No, I think that is pretty much it. I think just remember, you always need accuracy to land your debuffs if your tank is debuffing, and defense and HP, there's not really a hard and fast way to build them. We will get into team building more often, but make sure you always bring someone to keep your team alive. That is what the tank is there for. He is the sponge of your team. You need to keep your team alive. All right, fantastic. Stay tuned. We're going to have damage dealers coming up soon and a lot more content, guys. Subscribe if you enjoy it. Obviously, thanks again to Dragonheir. Thanks again to Saf. And with that, take care, guys.